Okay, looks like according to my clock, it is the top of the hour. So let's get going. Thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. The fact that you're here on this webinar tells me that you are interested in learning more about Aptora software and getting the most out of it. And hopefully by me personally being here, the president of the company, you can understand how much I want you to enjoy the software and how much it means to us. Everybody at Aptora puts a lot of hard work into this software, and we really want it to be as good as it possibly can be. And that's why I'm here doing these myself. And I hope you will attend these the first Wednesday of every month. If that Wednesday falls on a holiday in January 1st, or pardon me, Wednesday of the first Wednesday of January is a holiday, we will always do those 1 week after. So we'll be doing this 1 week after on January 13th. But I hope to be doing these with you a long time every month, and I hope you'll come to them. Keep in mind, you can post your questions. I'm looking at them now. We have some questions coming in. That's good. Please feel free to post your questions. I'll get to as many of them as I can at the end of my presentation. So this will take about 1 hour, and then I'll start going through the Q&A. And if any of these questions are related to what I'm talking about, I'll address the questions during the webinar. I won't wait till the end to do that. So please feel free to type those in. Just a few words on our agenda today. I'm not going to be training you on the software so much as I hope you'll learn a few things, but I'm not really going to be training you on any aspect of the software. My goal is to show you what's new in the software, and also my goal is to show you things that you might not have known are in the software, or maybe you didn't know what it was for, and I'll give you a general idea of what it is, and then you can look into it. So my objective isn't to really train on anything in particular. We do offer training, as you probably know. I want to talk about our programming mantra. I want to talk about some of the major features that we're going to be adding fairly soon. And I also want to talk about some of the major features that we're going to be adding next year as time goes on. So that is what I have in mind for today. If you didn't come to our last webinar, you might not have been aware of our programming mantra. I'd like to cover it every time. Every webinar, I'd like to briefly cover our mantra. This is our software Bible, or 10 commandments, if you will. There's only 5. We'll call it our software 5 commandments then, that we are living by now. First thing, do no harm. Don't break anything. We know that you're tired of updates that break things, and so are we. They're embarrassing. It's like a callback, it's like a callback in your company. You go fix something, it doesn't work, you got to go fix it again. A callback is the same thing for us putting out an update and it breaks something, and we're sorry for that. That is our first rule. Don't break anything. Number 2, put out more reliable updates. The two go hand in hand. Number 3, make the software faster, more stable, fewer yellow screens. Maybe you've seen those yellow screens. That is an error message that we can usually prevent, not always, but usually we can prevent it. And if you're updating your software regularly, you've noticed that we have far fewer yellow screens. They are down 93%, 93% fewer yellow screens. So we're pretty proud of that. Also, we are stopping the practice of programming for dysfunctionality. I didn't make that term up. Actually, one of our clients, one of our software users called me once and said, James, you know what your problem is at Aptora? What's that, sir? You program for dysfunctionality. I knew right what he meant, but I asked him to explain. And he said, you just seem to add features and capability to the software to help people deal with their company's dysfunctionality. If they did things mostly the right way, you wouldn't have to put in all this weird stuff and have all these preferences and so forth. And we really took that to heart, and we've been really trying hard not to program for dysfunctionality. We're trying to put in features and create flow that makes sense according to a good, solid business model. And that takes me to number 5, which is related. Only add features that the vast majority of our users would want. So we're trying to put our efforts into getting the most out of our labor time. We only have so much programming labor, as you can guess. So we're trying to focus on features that don't necessarily sell more software, which is kind of dumb. If you think about it, we need to sell software. But we're really focused on adding features and capabilities that the vast majority of our users want. Second to that, we think about how to sell more software. What features would sell more software? But I can tell you, we are definitely more dedicated to keeping current users happy than we are just building neat looking stuff that'll sell more software but has little use in a person's business. I want to talk about the importance of having an implementer. It's not unusual, by the way, for people to be upset with Aptora, to be upset with the software, to say this has been really hard to implement your software. Your software is very complicated. It isn't so much that our software is complicated, it's just big. You could think of it as a building. Our software could be thought of as a building with 500 rooms, 540 rooms. In our software, we have about 540 forms, 540. So think about a building that has 540 rooms. The good news is you probably will never outgrow this building. The bad news is there's 540 rooms for you to visit. Now, if I took you to every single room in the building and showed you around, you wouldn't find any room particularly complicated. It would just be overwhelming to know what all 540 rooms did and where to find them. That's how it is with our software. So it's really important for your company to have a implementer, a software implementer. This is a person, or maybe it's 2 people, that you assign the task of overseeing the onboarding, the implementation, and the ongoing management of our software. This person is your company's main go-to person for tech support. You actually go to them for your tech support. You go to them to complain that the software is no good, or you need a feature, you absolutely have to have this feature. Then they communicate with Aptora, and they become our main go-to person. And this improves communication between our companies immensely, but it also builds 1 or 2 people in your company that have most of the answers. And it's far more efficient to go to them than it would be to call us. You call us, we give you an answer, but you're the only person typically that knows the answer to that question. And that knowledge is just in your head. It would be better if it could be spread out through the whole company. So it's really important to have 1 or 2 go-to people in your company. Finally, I hope you had a chance to read a recent article that I put out. It is regarding whether or not your company has a software problem or do you have an HR problem. Here is the article. Let me get this up on my screen. So if you go to contractingbusiness.com and you search for my name, you'll find all the articles that I've written for that magazine. This one's titled, Do You Have a Software Problem or Do You Have an HR Problem? Now, what I'm talking about in this article isn't specific to Total Office Manager or Aptora, but I talk about the fact that I meet a lot of people that tell me that they're switching software. They're disappointed in their software. Maybe you thought about switching software. This article is for you. They tell me, we're sick of our software. We just need to find good software that does things the way we do it. Is that too much to ask for? And my answer to that in short is yes, it is. A lot of times you have business process failures. You have problems with HR. You have people problems. You don't have software problems. So in this article, I try to talk about the importance of dealing with your software company. I'm your software company. Aptora is your software company. We're a vendor and you're our customer. We're a vendor-customer relationship. So we're a vendor like Lennox or Carrier or Train is a vendor. But I would argue we're way more important than they are. Your relationship with Aptora is more important than your relationship with Train or Carrier or any of those people, because we're the lifeblood of your company. we're your business system, your software business system. So it's really important that you have a good relationship with us. And I want to have a good relationship with you. And that's why I'm here with you today live talking to you, because I want us to have a great vendor customer relationship. And I want to give you the things that you need in your software program. It's very important to me. We don't want to program for dysfunctionality. We want to program according to a proper business model, proper accounting. But it's important that we have a good relationship. Anyway, I could go on and on about that. I would really like to encourage you to read this article, contractingbusiness.com. I'll provide the link in the PowerPoint file, which I'll make available after the webinar. And please check it out, because I'm trying to make the case that you want to give your software company one more try before you switch. You want to ask them, why don't you do things like this? Why do you do things that way? Why can't you do it like this? And let them talk to you about it. You might be surprised. When people are upset with our software, we almost always win them over. We really do. When they have a chance to talk to trainers and consultants, not just tech support. Tech support is our ER, the emergency room of the hospital. When you have a chance to talk to the doctor, if you will, when you talk to a trainer or a consulting trainer, and you really dig into your business model, and you talk about how Total Office Manager works with your business model or how it should work, most people walk away pretty happy. Most people who come to Aptora University or participate deeply in our training and consulting are happy. We don't win everybody over, but we win the vast majority of those upset people over. So please read this article and give it some thought, especially if you've been frustrated with the program. Okay. So let's talk about some of our improvements. I'm going to run the software here in a second. Let's talk about some of the improvements that we have coming out in our new update. So this update is going to be coming out either tomorrow or early next week. We've added numerous things, but some of the highlights we have coming is an email selector to the internal email system. That'll be in the update after next this year, the update after next. We have the ability for you to go into the invoice list and select a bunch of invoices and recalculate them. And I can tell you more about that later, but for those of you that have been waiting on it, you know what I'm talking about already. We have added the ability to export from the pay bills form. That was actually a suggestion from last month's webinar. Somebody said, why don't you have the ability to do that? And I grabbed my pen and I said, let me write that down. And I wrote it down and we did it. So we have that feature. We have Network Fleet and Fleetmatics integration. We have true texting in mobile now, not just email to text, but true texting. We have sped up the invoice form dramatically. We have chat in beta now. So we built a Windows chat system for Total Ops Manager. It's in beta. We have people using it. That should be released very soon. And we have lots of new shortcuts that we've added. The chat system, here's a sneak peek. The chat system is actually a Windows app. It's free. It won't cost extra. You'll be able to launch it on your desktop, and you'll be able to use it to communicate with other people in your office and or people in mobile. So people that are using the mobile app, you'll be able to communicate with them as well. So we're pretty excited about that feature. As you know, we do have chat now in mobile, but this is the first time we've added chat to a desktop as a Windows app. So it should be really handy. As far as Aptora Mobile 2 is concerned, we have been really working hard on it. We have fixed every bug that's been reported since our last update. We don't have a lot of serious bugs, but people find little things here and there, and we fix them. We're on top of that. We're working on improving the sales presentation system in mobile. So a lot of emphasis has gone into the shopping cart or the sales presentation part of the software. We have added Review Kangaroo. That'll be coming out in either the next update or the update after that, but this year. We should be releasing it before the end of December. We have been updating the Interbank feature. We already have Interbank integration, but Interbank has made a bunch of changes to their system, and we've updated according to those changes. We have replaced the document links grid in mobile. So we offer a much more powerful grid so you can sort through your documents faster. We have more filtering capability. We've added view permission to invoices. So we're making the security much more granular in mobile. It's already very detailed, but we're making it even more granular. That's been a popular request. And we have a lot more, but that's just a few highlights in mobile. Now, we have a lot of things planned for early 2020, next year. We are continuously working on speed. Okay, so speed is a big deal. We want to make the software as fast as we can. We're also working on more mapping and GPS related features. That's been a popular request. All of this work is requests from our customers. We almost never add anything for ourselves. This is all based on user feedback. We have more schedule board options and enhancements coming. We have rebuilt the credit card processing system. That'll be coming out next year. We have added we're adding the ability to schedule text reminders, like the night before, send a text message out to everybody and say, we're looking forward to seeing you tomorrow at 2 o'clock. Bob is your technician, that kind of thing. We already have that feature in mobile for emailing, but we're adding the pure texting, true texting, SMS, and then we're adding the ability to schedule it. So that's the difference there. And we're making a lot of other improvements to mobile. So mobile's the big emphasis, obviously. We also have a lot of major features planned for later in 2020. We have something we're super excited about, at least I am, the EGIA Superflex dashboard. So if you're an EGIA member, we have lots of key performance indicators, key measurements that we tell contractors to keep track of. We're putting those in a super flexible dashboard that'll be integrated into Microsoft Excel. That's coming out. That's going to be really cool. That's something I'm working on personally. You're going to love it. We're also working on a client portal. So this will be a portal for your customers to log in and do things. That's later in the year, but I want to let you know we are working on it. That is actually being worked on currently. So we hope to have that out mid to later part of next year, but for sure that's coming out. We are working on more offline features for mobile, so you can do more in mobile without an internet connection or a disrupted connection. We're working on a completely new reporting system for Total Office Manager. That's going to be towards the latter part of the year, but I want to make you aware of it. Completely redesigning our reporting system. We have made a lot of progress on rewriting our custom data viewer. That's going to be completely remodeled as well. Aptora Mobile 2 will be getting a new set of warehouse management features. What we envision is people using their mobile device, phone, tablet, something like that, but we envision them using that device in the warehouse to receive items, to check purchase orders, to do item counts, etc. So we're adding a whole set of features to mobile for a warehouse person. We are working on a really cool barcoding system that will connect your mobile device to a national database of barcode information. So even if you don't have the item in Total Office Manager, it will attempt to find the item and give you a picture of it and give you specifics on what the item is and possibly offer you pricing suggestions and a quick add feature. That's pretty cool. More information coming. And we are working to integrate our dispatching system with Google Calendar through so-called iCal technology. That should be exciting because once we integrate with Google, then we integrate with everything that integrates with Google. So if you think about it, if our schedule board integrates with Google, then anything that works with Google, even Outlook, right, should work with our integration. So that should be very helpful as well. Now, if you feel like you're not getting the most out of Total Office Manager, please consider calling your salesperson, your account manager, and ask them about getting some training. Sign up for some training. We offer on-site training. We'll come to you. You can come to us. We have Aptora University 3 or 4 times a year. We do Aptora University. It's always a sellout. Be sure to get signed up for next year's session. And also we do training like this live over the internet, one-on-one training, private training, customized to your needs. And if you don't have our manuals, or if you don't have our training manuals, things like that, be sure to check out the support website, support.aptora.com, or call your account manager or ask the help desk for information about downloading some of our training manuals. All right, so let's get into Total Office Manager. Make sure I got it up and running. Now, by the way, if you didn't know it, we do offer a hosted version. Right now, I'm on the desktop version. This software is on my computer at the moment, and maybe that's like yours. But we also offer a hosted version. So right now, I'm in Total Office Manager. So this is Total Office Manager running normally. I am in the hosted version. So this is software running on the cloud, somewhere on the cloud, right? It's on our cloud system, and we run the software for you. So we manage all the updates, we do all the backups, we do all the database maintenance, we take care of all the security, things like that. It's all out there on the cloud. It's on a secure cloud. If you want information about that, please give us a call. But I wanted to make you aware, if you're not, that we do offer a cloud hosting service. It's the same software program, but it's out there on the internet. So you can have a full-blown accounting business management system and not just an add-on. And you can have it in the cloud if you'd like to. All right, with that in mind, let's start talking about some of the things in Total Office Manager that are fairly new that you might not be aware of. And then later on, we'll open this up to Q&A. Let me look at my questions. Got good questions. So yeah, looks good. A lot of questions here. I like it. All right, so let's talk about payroll. If you haven't seen our email about payroll setup, please call tech support and ask them about what's up with payroll. We are going to be putting out an update to payroll. And if you haven't made a change to your software, then your payroll is not going to work. Most of you won't have to do anything, but let's talk about it. Let's go to the employee list. Let's find some employee. Let's right click on her and let's open up employee payroll items. If you haven't set up your taxes here, if you haven't properly set up your taxes here in this form, after you update, our next update, it will break your payroll. By breaking your payroll, what I mean is payroll will not calculate taxes correctly. So be sure to dig up that email. We've sent the email like 5 times. We've made it red and bold and attention, and we've sent it to everybody we could think of. But if that doesn't make sense to you and you're in charge of this, please call tech support and say, what is up with payroll? What do I need to know? They can send you that email. In that email, there's a link to a help topic which thoroughly explains what to do. It's easy to fix it. It's easy to take care of. It's just that when we do the update, you'll have to be sure that your taxes are set up properly. Now, why did we do all this? It wasn't really a matter of fixing a bug. It's because payroll has undergone huge changes at a federal level. So there's a lot more tax rules, payroll withholding, all this that we have to comply with. And we've been busy putting in a ton of work, updating our payroll system so it complies with the new tax laws. So when they did that big tax cut, one thing they also did is they made significant changes to payroll. And we're on top of it. We have it all covered. You'll be good, but please read that email because it's important that you set up your payroll properly, okay? So again, if you have any questions on that, please contact our help desk and ask them what's up with the payroll changes, and they'll explain it to you. One thing I also wanted to do, I'm looking at my little list of things to talk to you about today. I got it right here, my cheat sheet. One thing that I wanted to be sure that you knew about is our Sales Opportunity Manager. Now, this feature has to be turned on in preferences. So I'd like all of you to check into this and make sure that you have this Sales Opportunity Manager here. If you don't see these features, please give your account manager a call. Most of you have this feature. It was extra. This feature, almost everybody invests in it. But if you don't have it, we will give you one heck of a deal on it. I mean, one heck of a deal. Call your account manager and say, we don't have sales opportunity manager, or say to them, I don't think I see the sales opportunity manager, and they'll check to be sure that you have it. Okay. But the sales opportunity manager is for tracking sales leads. This is where you put a sales lead into the system. So you would come here, let's say the phone rings and somebody says, I'm interested in a new comfort system, or replumbing my house, or rewiring my house. You would come in here and you would add that customer if they've never been in here before, or you would select that customer and you would select from a series of products like major repair or entire comfort system. And if it's a lead from an employee, you can select that person because we can give them spiffs. We have lots of other fields to fill out. We have a profile, which is user definable. You create the entire profile by product line. So come in here and you can build your own queue, your own questions to be answered. All of this is in mobile too, by the way. So mobile has this complete set of features. But if you don't use the Sales Opportunity Manager, again, please be sure that you have it and it's activated. And if you want some training on it, should be pretty easy to use. But if you want some training on it, call the help desk and let's see if some of you have some training hours that maybe you have available that you could use on this feature. But this is one of the reasons why you invested in Total Office Manager. You know, the word Total Office Manager. It's not an add-on. It's not a clunky add-on to an accounting program. It's all built in. It's one program. So the Sales Opportunity Manager flows nicely into mobile. It flows nicely into AP. It flows nicely into your sales proposals, into the purchase orders, item receipts, work orders, flows into invoicing. It's completely built in, and the flow is really nice. So please be sure that you have the Sales Opportunity Manager. Again, where to find it? You come to Customers, Sales Opportunity Manager. If you don't see that menu, then you may not have that feature. And again, when in doubt, just call your account manager and ask them about it. All right, I think you'll really like the Sales Opportunity Manager. When you update Total Office Manager next, when the next update comes out, one thing you will notice is a new set of fields in the timesheet called latitude and longitude. So what happens is when someone clocks in and out in mobile, when they clock in and out in mobile, it has been recording all along. It's been recording their latitude and longitude, but we've made that information available in the timesheet form in Total Ops Manager. So the data has always been there. So you'll see lots of data already, but we didn't have those fields in the timesheet form. So we've added those. And to show those forms, you'll click your preferences and just check the latitude and longitude box in preferences. So in preferences, that's how you add or subtract these columns that are in your timesheet. Okay, simple as that. So if you weren't aware of it, you can come in here and you can add or subtract these columns. You can rearrange these columns, and to add or subtract, just do that through preferences. Okay, so that is coming in the next update. Speaking of that, on a related note, in mobile, many people call and ask, where's the GPS data in mobile? And I'll get mobile going here in a minute, but I want to let you know, if you haven't heard, in mobile, there is a GPS data list. So you can go into the GPS list, and you can see everybody's coordinates throughout the day. And that's already built into mobile. So be sure to check that out if you weren't aware of it. And if you want to get that data out of the software to do something with it, there is a custom data view here. Let's just open that up real quick. Here in the custom data view form, you have GPS tracking information right there. So this is all of the GPS info, and that's 65,000 records. You notice it's 64,991 records populated very quickly. There it is. and you can do things with this data more than we can talk about right here, but you have all that data available to you in the software. So there's a lot you can do with it if you weren't aware of it. You can also see it mobile, as I mentioned. Hopefully all of you have heard by now of the Geo Time Tracker. Let's talk about that real quick. If you go to aptora.com/geotimetracker, you can see the newest app that we have available. This is a time clock app. That's all it does is time clocks. Radically simple. Don't need a user manual. You clock in, you clock out. You can optionally clock in and out on a work order if you'd like. You can track travel time if you want to. It also keeps track of your GPS coordinates. It reports those back to the schedule board mapping system. So it knows where that app is. You'll see everybody on the schedule board mapping system if they're using this app. But this is perfect for those of you who have, say, installers, and you don't want to give them the full Aptora mobile app, and you don't want to pay for the full app either, right? You don't want to pay money for Aptora mobile when they're only going to clock in and out. So if that's all you need is for people to clock in and out, this is perfect for you. They can just use this app to clock in, clock out. It also has the chat feature built into it, so they can still chat with each other. And when we come out with our desktop chat feature, which, as I mentioned earlier, is coming out very soon, when we come out with that, your dispatchers can also, or anybody can also chat with them from the office. So please check into Geo Time Tracker if you've ever wanted a simple time clock app, simple and inexpensive time clock app that's fully integrated into Total Ops Manager, no double entry at all. I think that program will be for you. All right, let's open up our customer job list real quick. I think all of you know it, but just so you are aware of it, you can add or subtract columns in most of these lists by coming down here to Form Preferences, Show Columns. And there's a lot of columns available, a lot of columns here. Now, somebody asked what happened to the totals column in the invoice list. And I didn't understand the question during the last webinar, but if you're on, I do know what you meant now. We did remove the totals column on some of these lists because they were not always accurate as far as the user was concerned, because they were literally totaling up the column and not subtracting credits. So it was accurate, but it was misleading. But most importantly, it slowed the form down immensely. So if some of you missed the balance field, and it would have been down right here, if you missed the total field, rather, if you missed that, sorry, we did have to remove that. That's been many months ago, but it was done mostly for speed. So you can add or subtract these columns. By removing columns that you don't need, you can make the software a lot faster. Let's go back to Show Columns. If you notice, some of these columns have an asterisk next to them. Financial history, yes or no? Well, it takes the software time to calculate whether or not they have financial history. Have they ever bought anything from you? If yes, they're a customer. If no, they're a prospect. That's how you know the difference. If there's no financial history, they're a prospect. If they have financial history, they're a customer, right? But you may not care about that. If you uncheck that box, the form will load faster. Now, you may not care. The form might load fast for you already. But just keep that in mind. If you want to speed up the forms, they will be faster by unchecking some of these boxes that you don't need. Now, this is per user. So when you come in here and do this for yourself, you're not affecting any of the other users in Total Office Manager. There's no way for you to set this for every user. Each user has to do that individually, okay? So every list offers that capability. Now, I wanted to show you something that you might find useful. Let's look up me. I'm in this program here, James Leichter. There I am. Okay, so I'm over my credit limit. Past due invoices. Yep. I owe a lot of money, $82,000. That's why you got all these alerts and my service agreement's expired. Anyway, what I wanted to show you was the contacts tab. If you're not aware of it, the contacts tab has its own preferences. Go to menu, go down to show columns in the contact tab, and then you have the ability to add or subtract columns. A new one is called preferred. Oh, wait a minute. That's not that. Well, that is a new one. Preferred. Well, no, that is not. I correct myself. Preferred contact method is not new. What I meant to show you was purchasing role. All the others are old. They've been in there a while. Purchasing role is important for those of you who are in sales. So be sure to turn that on, and then you should see a column, and it'll appear on the far right. So you'll have to drag it over if you want to. I drug mine over here. So the purchasing role is hard-coded, meaning you can't add to this list. These are the roles of the purchaser, the buyer, the prospect. This is really helpful during the sales process because when you're selling a comfort system, a rooftop unit, whatever to somebody, you want to identify each person you're dealing with role. You want to identify their role. For example, are they a gatekeeper? Are they a buyer? Are they a champion? Are they unknown? Are they a self-proclaimed decision maker? Got to be careful with this person. This is a person that told you, yeah, I'm going to be deciding on the rooftop unit. You might be talking to the maintenance person, and they are pretending like they are a decision maker when in fact they are not. Or there's the influencer. They don't make the decision, but they deeply influence the decision. Now, if you're wondering about the definition of any of these, don't forget we have a pretty good online help system. Let me bring that up real quick here. Let's come over here and let's go to support.aptora.com. We've been really working hard on this website to improve the support website. If you haven't seen it in a while, please check it out. So let's type in purchasing role, and it's already filling it out for me. All right, so there's purchasing role. Let's go search for that. Watch it not find anything. Wouldn't that be terrible? Okay, so it found one result, customer job form, contacts tab. So that's where we were, right? We were in the customer job form, contacts tab. Let's click on that and then look through here, and it's explaining the various things on the contacts tab, and one should be purchasing role. Okay, so there it is, purchasing role right here. That explains what that does. Now, it says here is a good web page on the subject. If you click that hyperlink, it'll take you to an explanation of what every role is and what to do about it. You don't have to follow any of this. It tells you what the role is, but also what you should do about that role. So there's some useful tips and comments on that particular role. So if you haven't done it in a while, be sure to check out the support website, and you should see some information about some of these features. So purchasing role. You know, while I'm in here, let's talk about the name field, the first name and the last name field. You probably don't need all three of these. You probably want the first name and the last name, and you can get rid of name. All right, and then again, how do we do it? We go down to menu, we go down to show columns, and here you can say, well, I want to get rid of the name field, and I'll just do that, and it's gone. So now we have first name and last name. The reason why we recommend that you separate those two is for marketing purposes. So let's open up Notepad. Let's say you're going to write a letter and you started out with dear something. If you have the first name and the last name, then you'll have no choice. If you have the name field only, you'll have no choice but to write your letter, Dear James Leichter, and then it's something like, we are having a big sale, and so forth. Well, it would be better if you were to do this, Dear James. And how would you do that? Well, you want to divide out the first name and the last name. You want to make sure those are separate. Now, don't make the mistake that many people do and type everything in as uppercase. Because when you go to market this person, you'll have the disadvantage of this. Dear James, right? We're always taught uppercase is yelling. So here it says, Dear James, and it looks funny. So then you'll have to uppercase dear, and then do you uppercase the rest of the letter? Well, that's not correct. That's not proper. So you want to avoid the uppercase, lowercase problem. So keep it in title case, right? So that's why that's there. That's why the first name and the last name are offered separately. The name field is in there. I guess that's programming for dysfunctionality, isn't it? If I had my way, we wouldn't even offer a name field. It would be first and last. But the name field is actually helpful when we're migrating data from your old system into the new one. We may need the name field, and that's why that field is there. But I wouldn't use it if you can avoid it. Use the first name and the last name. That's why we separate those two. Let's look at the schedule board for a moment, the new schedule board. If you noticed many months ago, it's been in there a long time, we have a callback feature. So you can create a callback work order. Now that I'm into the new schedule board, let me remind everybody, this new schedule board was designed to be on another monitor. Right now you can't see it, but I have a monitor here and I have a monitor here, and you'll see me glance up at these monitors once in a while. This schedule board was designed to be on another monitor like this one. And I might have my email on this one, and I might have Total Office Manager on this one. I might even run Total Office Manager and put it here, and I might run Total Office Manager again and put it here, and I could have the schedule board in the middle. So those are your options, but the schedule board was designed to be on another monitor. That way, when you click callback work order, you'll notice that it pops up on the other form. So there is my callback work order. Pop-up notes. Again, this guy's a deadbeat. Would you like to assign this callback to Andrew Webster? Yes, I would. All right, so what it did is it created a new work order, but it knew who did the old one. And it created a callback on that person. So you can see this is a callback on Andrew Webster from 7/7 of 2020. And if I click that, it's a hyperlink to take me into that work order so I can see it. You don't want to create a new work order. You want to create a callback work order. But if you happen to forget, you can always go back and do it manually. So here, if it's a callback, you can assign this work order to another work order, and the software will know that's a callback, okay? So it's best to either go into the schedule board, right-click, and do a callback here, or you can open up the work order, and you can select the work order that it's a callback on. Either one, your choice. And there's other shortcuts too. There's other places to create callback work orders. But the important thing to remember is be sure that you assign it to that original work order. Now, what's the big advantage? There's a lot of advantages, not the least of which you can go into, say, the employee list. You can right-click on the employee. You can go to the employee's history. And at the top of the history, you can see their callbacks. So this will show their year-to-date callbacks. How many callbacks have they had year-to-date? She's had 3. How many callbacks total in her life? She's had 5. So that tells you the callbacks. Now, if you want to see them, you can go to the callbacks tab, and you can see those callbacks, and you can also see what they cost you. So you could put in a discount item called callback. You could price out the whole invoice, put in a discount item called callback, even point that to a chart of account called callback, which I would. And now you can track their callbacks. So let's just look at that real quick. Let's go to company and go to, or I'll go to lists. It's easier, invoice items. And we will select type, and I'll type in discount, DISC. So this is showing you the discount type of items that you put into the software. Where did they come from? Well, let's act like we're creating a new invoice item. You have a type called discount. This is how I created it. And I have a discount in here for callbacks. I have one for coupons. I have one for people in the military. I have a discount for callbacks. Let's open it. So we would use this every time we do a callback. We fill out an entire invoice, diagnostic fee, labor, parts, you name it, whatever it is. Fill it out completely. And then we put a discount at the bottom to zero it out. Don't skip creating the invoice, because this way you'll be able to track what this cost you. And then on your accounting tab, you could point that to parts and materials, or you could point it to an expense item called callback. So that way you can track your callbacks and track the money involved in the callback. All right, so that's a little tip. If that is something that you are still not aware of how to do it, if this is new to you, remember, that's what training's for. Yes, you can call tech support, but tech support is the triage unit of our building, right? They're the ER, emergency room. They stitch you up real quick. Training is where it's at. So if you like that idea, if you're like thinking, yeah, maybe we should create a whole invoice and discount it out. And how would we track that? Where would we see that money? How can I see callback ratios on people? How do I know who's got the most callbacks? That's training. So you would schedule training for that. And you can set an hour of training and talk about 20 different things with a trainer. And you'll really start liking the software more. Trust me, there's a lot of logic built into the software that most people aren't aware of. And it's a shame too, because all software companies lose clients. We lose them. We lose people who didn't even know what they had. And they go to another program and they're not happy with it either. And they go to another program. And I've met people that are on their fourth program, maybe spent $100,000 or more, and they're still not happy. When it's possible their very first program was just as good as their second, third, or fourth that they wasted all that money and time on. And every time they switch software, they lose data, they lose history, they lose information about their customers, they lose valuable info when they switch software. So please don't switch. Don't switch software unless you have to, unless you're absolutely convinced you have to. Invest money in training. It's way cheaper than switching software, way cheaper. So that's the idea of a discount. As long as we're in here talking about discounts, again, notice I have discounts for, say, military people. If you ever said, I would like to know how many discounts we've given to military people, how would you figure that out? You'd right click and go to the items history. And then in the items history, you would see every invoice, and you'd see a lot more in real life. This is a sample database. But imagine going in here and seeing 10,000 invoices given to military people. You could right click, export to Excel, and now you have a list of everybody that you've ever given a discount to. And if you haven't used it, you could go to the marketing list generator and you could say to this software, show me everyone that's ever bought, quote unquote, bought a military discount. So it'll scour through the whole database looking for every customer that's ever had a military discount or a callback discount or whatever you decide, and it'll return a complete contact list to you for marketing. And you can either market through here by creating your own letters, or better yet, as far as I'm concerned, better yet, put it into Excel and do a mail merge into Outlook or Microsoft Word and market to them that way. Or upload that to, say, MailChimp, an email company like MailChimp, upload this list, this marketing list to them, and market to them. So by creating those discounts, you're creating the opportunity to mine that data, as they call it. Mine that data. You can get that data out of the software quite easily. Okay. So these are the things I want to do every month with you. I want to show you things that are new, brand new, maybe things that are 6 months old that you probably didn't know about, or maybe features that have been there from the very beginning that you weren't aware of. And I'm going to show you one of those right now. Here's a feature that we added maybe 4 years ago, and most people aren't aware of it. Let's use the close all. That's not what I was going to talk about, but most people don't know there's a close all. You can click window, do close all real quick. Let's go to customers, and let's go to company, go to inventory adjustment, and let's use the inventory transfer feature. So right down here, inventory transfer. If you don't see it, you may not have it turned on in preferences, or you may not have permission to use it. So remember, some of our features have to be turned on. We're trying to make the software simpler to use in the beginning. And simple, by the way, there's no trick to simple. The only way to make software simple is to remove features, capabilities, preferences, and options. Seriously, that's true. Don't let anybody convince you that they can make software simple. Simple software is weak software. You just simply take away options. Apple was famous for that, right down to the screws. If you haven't heard, they used to build, still do, build machines with weird screws so you couldn't get in there. To make things simple, you take away features. Total Office Manager is arguably the most powerful program of its kind. It's like that 550 room building. The only way to make the building easier to get around in is to take away 500 of those rooms, give you 50. But when you got 550, you got a lot of options. You got a lot of flexibility. You probably want to outgrow it. All right, so let's go to items, go to company, and you can see we would have to turn on certain features here, like the item alias feature, the reservation feature, that kind of thing. So be sure you have these features on, and then you have to go to security. You or somebody has to go to security, and they have to make sure that that security has been assigned to that person so that you can get to it. All right, so let's talk about inventory transfer. This inventory transfer form does 3 things, and you'll see them right here. It transfers inventory from one warehouse to another. So if you click on this list, you will only see inventory parts, and you will only see serialized items, because those are the only tangible items that you're tracking. So it has to be an inventory part, or it has to be serialized, or it won't be in this list. But you can pick an item, and then you can transfer it from, say, the main warehouse to truck number 1, or from truck number 1 to truck number 2. So the first thing this form allows you to do is transfer inventory from one warehouse to another. The next thing it will allow you to do is transfer ownership of an item. Now let me explain that. So here we are going to transfer ownership from our company to A.L. Huber Construction, this particular job. So here is a builder. We have a builder, new construction. We're doing a job for them. That's the job. I'll pick them. If I want to, I can associate that with a department, such as residential new construction. And I'm going to take stuff out of the main warehouse. Now I can start picking items. I pick this one. And I pick this one. And I pick this one. And it's going to transfer ownership from Aptora to this customer, and it's going to create cost of goods sold. So why would you do this? Without creating an invoice, you can transfer ownership to an ongoing job daily or every other day as you please. And you can create cost of goods sold without waiting for the invoice. See, that's the big advantage. Let's say that you have a job that's going on for 2 months, 3 months, 3 months long. And almost every day you're loading up trailers and trucks with parts and materials, and they're driving out there to do that work. Some of you might want to create ongoing costs of goods sold as you transfer the parts from your warehouse to the truck and the truck drives out there to do the job. This form does that. It allows you to transfer ownership to the job without creating the invoice. And that could be very handy. For some of you, you'll never need it. But don't let that confuse you with complicated. It doesn't make the software complicated because you may not understand or you may not care about this room. Remember, there's 550 rooms in the building. Here's a room you may not care about, but someday if you do, we have that room. We have that feature. It doesn't get in your way if you don't care about it. But some of you can't live without it. This is a game changer for your accounting, a game changer. This is especially important for those of you who have trailers full of things and you drive that trailer out there and you do an ongoing job and they return the trailer and you have to put back into inventory what they didn't use. And if you add to that many trailers, this form could be a game changer for you. So this is how it works. We come in here and I'm going to put in a date, 2019. So January 1, 2019, let's make that 2020. We are about to transfer these 3 items from our main warehouse to this customer, and we are going to create cost of goods sold based on whatever we've been paying for these items. And I'll hit save and close, and that's done. All right, so the trailer goes out there, the car, the vehicle, whatever it is, goes out there. Eventually, they come back, they roll up your garage door, and they dump everything out onto the floor and say, this is stuff we didn't use. And your warehouse person has to put that back. What they will do then is they will go back to the inventory adjustment form. They will pick, whoops, not that one. Picked the wrong room, didn't I? They'll go back to the inventory transfer form. They will put in today's date, and maybe that's January 2nd, 2020. They will pick the customer, and that was, or the department. Let's do the department first, new construction. They will select return inventory. Remember, we did transfer ownership earlier. Now we're going to return the inventory. So we're going to pick the customer. It was A.L. Huber Construction. It was this job right there. And they will pick from the list. Now, this is a common tech support call. I found a bug in your software. There's only 3 items in the list. Where's the rest of my list? The only items you're going to see in here are the items that you transferred out to the job, which is great because that's the only 3 items that you could possibly return. So if you want to return one of these items to stock, and you can put it in the main warehouse or a truck, if you want to return it to stock, there it is. You hit save and close, and you just reduced your cost of goods sold and you increased your inventory asset. You would put the item back. Problem solved. By the way, as long as we're in the inventory replenishment form, I opened it up by accident and I wasn't going to talk about it, but here it is. This allows you to automatically create purchase orders for items that have gone below their reorder point. So that's what that form is. And again, it's under that same area, inventory adjustment. All right, so there's a lot of features here that you may not be aware of. Be sure to check those out. And if you have questions about them, then you can contact our training department and we'll talk about that. Let's open up our work order list real quick and open up a work order. I want to be sure you're clear on a feature here if you haven't seen it. Let's go to the additional info tab. There's a little box here that says no invoice required. If you check that box, you're telling the software, we don't need to create an invoice for this work order. Now, it should be rare that you would use this feature for most of you anyway. Don't use this feature on a callback. Don't use this on warranty. If it's free, you still want to create a fully itemized invoice and you want to put a discount at the bottom called discount warranty, discount callback, discount whatever. Only use this when you're sending other people to the job and you don't need to create an invoice from this work order because you've already created the invoice from someone else's work order. That's usually the only time you would need this feature. Now remember, it's things like this that make the software seem like it's hard to use because it's more stuff, if you will. I love that word, stuff. It's more stuff on the form that people look at and they may not understand. But it's one of those 550 rooms, one of the thousands of things the software can do. But just don't let that stress you out. But that feature, again, is really handy when you want to tell the software, I don't need an invoice for this work order, so don't remind me to create an invoice. Now, how do we use that feature? One of your columns can be invoiced yes or no, right here. So this tells you if you have work orders that need an invoice. You would come down here, for example, and you would create a filter. And it might be something like work orders today not invoiced. And you click that filter. These are user created filters. You should be creating filters like this. You have global and you have user filters, like parts have arrived, parts that are on order, work orders today that are not invoiced. These are work orders today that need to be invoiced. Now, the software has the ability to ignore the ones that you've checked the little box on. And how could it do that? Well, let's right click and go to edit. One thing you have the ability to do is you can say invoiced equals yes and invoice required. Let's see where that is. Invoiced, oh, no invoice required equals or doesn't equal true or false. So that's how you can say to the software, I want you to show me all work orders that are completed that have not been invoiced, where the no invoice requires equals false. Equals false. And that would allow you to see only the work orders that need to be invoiced. Okay. Now, the reason why I point that out is there are features just like that all over the software. Customer list, invoice list, etc. And you can create all of these filters to do a lot of the work for you. Many people are not using these filters at all, and most don't use them to their full extent. So please be sure to check out your filters. And remember, like I said, they're everywhere. So if you go to your invoice list, you can create filters on your invoice list to say, hey, show me balances over $3,000. Show me estimates that are awarded. Show me sales only or pending estimates or mobile invoices. Show me just the mobile invoices, and here they are. Very handy feature. All right, let me show you some merge utilities here that people are not always aware of. Let's go to our marketing type. So here we have our marketing types. If you're not using this, boy, should you. This is great. These are all the ways that your company markets. As long as I'm in here, let's take a look. You could create something called direct mail, make that a parent. And then you could create children or subs, level 1, level 2, level 3, called direct mail letter 1, direct mail letter 2, billboard 1, billboard 2, Google ad 1, Google ad 2. You get the idea. Put it in here. Also, you might want to associate documents with it. Using this document feature, you can associate all of your bills, the money you spend on it. You could take a picture of the letter or the billboard, or you could have a PDF version of it, and you could drag those into the document manager so that you have historical records of what advertising you did. You might want to come back to this letter because you discovered it worked really well. How would you know it worked really well? You go into history. And you have a complete history of how well this letter did. Every sales opportunity created, every dollar spent, because again, this is an accounting system built in, right? We're not trying to interface with QuickBooks or something. So the software knows how much money you spent on the letter, the billboard, the postage stamps. It knows how much money came in. It knows how many leads were created through that total office manager, through the sales opportunity manager. It knows how many leads you created. All of that information flows into this form so that you can see how well it's doing. Now, occasionally, you'll accidentally create a duplicate. And let's pretend like those are duplicates that we want to get rid of. Many of your lists have a merge feature that I wanted to make you aware of. So you could merge those two by clicking here. And it'll say, are you sure you want to do that? Yeah, I'm sure. And it will merge those, and you can never reverse it, by the way. So you can't reverse that. But if you merge those two, it allows you to get rid of a duplicate. You just simply tell the software what field, or pardon me, what you want to merge from into. So it says, okay, you got direct mail 1771. Where do you want to put it? I want to put everything into 1772. Now, when you're done, do you want to inactivate it? Yeah, that sounds like a good idea, and hit merge. It will merge from A to B and then inactivate A, which should be empty. So a lot of lists have that capability. You can merge work order types, you can merge manufacturer types, marketing types, equipment types, customers. The customer merge is even way more powerful. So be aware that you can merge things if you created duplicates. You might find that to be very helpful. I'm looking down at my notes of things I wanted to make sure I talked to you about. Let's go to an invoice real quick. I'm watching my clock too, so we're about to start Q&A. I want to make you aware of something that's really important. Let's open up an invoice. Now, we talked earlier about whether or not you would want an invoice to be, or pardon me, we talked whether or not you would want a work order to be invoiced. And there's times where you might say, no, I don't want it invoiced. But keep in mind, even if you have a crew of people, maybe 5 people went out there, each person had their own work order, you really want to invoice from all 5 work orders. You probably know that you can go to a work order. Let's just do it. You can go to a work order, right click, and from here you can create things like purchase orders and so forth. But one of the things you can create is an invoice. That will automatically mark that work order as invoiced. But what if there's 5 other work orders because 5 other people contributed to the job? Once you create the invoice, you can go to menu and go down to assign work orders. This form will open up and it will show you those other work orders. And if you want to, you can check the little box and click OK, and it will now mark all of those work orders as invoiced, and it will associate those work orders, all of them, with this one invoice. You also have the ability, and this is really important, you have the ability to add work order items to the invoice. So let me paint the picture. You have 5 trucks going out to a job. All 5 trucks have different things in them. This truck has a furnace. This truck has an evaporator coil, a pad, a condensing unit, a disconnect, seal tight, etc. This other truck has lots of sheet metal in it. So each truck has their own work order. That's one reason why we insist on 1 person per work order. We don't want to program for dysfunctionality. So we have 1 work order per person. We make it easy, as you probably know, to create 5 of these work orders very quickly. You can create 1 work order for all 5 of them, and behind the scenes you have 5 separate work orders. But here we have 3 vehicles going out to this job. When you're ready to do an invoice, you can have all of the items in that vehicle flow into the invoice because those options are down here. Add work order items to this form, yes or no? Okay, you do. Well, what if there's duplicate items? Do you want to update the quantity field? In other words, go from 1 to 2, 2 to 3? Or would you like to not add duplicated items? Or would you like to allow duplicated line items? So if there's a duplicated item, like a roll of cable, you might say, yes, I want duplicated items because that can happen. So I want to roll a cable here and possibly a roll of cable down here, and that can happen. So we can have that flow into the invoice. Now, another feature that's handy is if you have duplicated items, like a roll of BX cable, you could come in here and add the date that the cable was used. So let's say that you are installing a walk-in freezer and you ended up using 2 timers and 2 rolls of BX cable. It'd be easy for the customer to think they got overbilled, but you can put in timer, timer, cable, cable, and put the install date for each if you wanted to. That's the kind of flexibility you have in the software. That's the kind of thing you learn from training or experimenting with it. You can either experiment with the software or get training, prefer both, of course. But I wanted to make you aware that you can assign multiple work orders to an invoice quite easily. Now, it's almost the end of the year, so you're going to want to go through some end of the year processes. One thing I wanted to remind you about is item receipts. If you click the vendor menu, you should see a receive items list right here. Now, if you see anything here, because some of you may not use this feature, you really should. If you've ever participated in training on this feature, you know that you enter an item receipt off a packing slip. So you create a purchase order, the items come into stock, and you create an item receipt, acknowledging the receipt of the items. The bill hasn't come yet. When you enter the bill, it gets rid of the item receipt. Some of you might know this from your QuickBooks days, if you're a QuickBooks user. Anyway, the point I wanted to make is go to the item receipt list and pay attention to these dates. Sort these dates here. Look at these dates right there, okay? Look and see if you have any old item receipts that aren't real. Because if you have an old item receipt for, can you see that? Maybe the print's small. That's $4,524.87. If that's an old item receipt that you've since entered the bill and paid the bill already, that is messing up your books. That is on your balance sheet is a $4,500 accounts payable that you don't really owe. So if you go to your accounts payable aging report and you see things that you don't recognize, that could be part of it. If you look at your balance sheet and AP seems a little high, that could be part of it. Go to your item receipt list and make sure that you don't have any item receipts that aren't legitimate, okay? So again, it's vendors, item receipt list. If you see nothing at all in there and you see no history at all, then it's because you've converted all of them to a bill, or it's possible you've never used that feature before. But again, when you enter a bill for received items, it'll give you a list of all those item receipts. You can see those here. And you pick it and click OK. Are you sure? Yeah, I'm sure. And then when it's done, it gets rid of that item receipt and turns it into a bill. And there's your bill. And the item receipt is gone. It's possible, though, that you could come in here to vendors and go to enter bills, and you could enter a bill from scratch, not knowing that there was an item receipt. The software warns you when it sees an item receipt for that vendor, by the way. It warns you, but you can ignore it. And it's possible that you could create a bill, pay the bill, and the item receipt is still in there. All right, so check that out. Make sure that you don't have any of those. And that might help clean up some of your books. Let's go to mobile real quick, and I'll answer a question that's already come in. Let's see here. Let's close that. Let's open up Aptora Mobile, and let's get to some Q&A because I already see one. And what do we have? Let's get rid of all that too. Close that tab. All right, so here I am in mobile. Probably have to refresh it. It might have fallen asleep because I've been talking for an hour. All right, so here in mobile, this is to address one of our questions here from Eddie. Go into more and email settings. That's what I'm shooting for. I got to wake the software up. It's been running since before I was on live with you. All right, so we're going to click more. We're going to go to settings, assuming you have permission to see this. Not every mobile user will. Eddie, go to email setup, and this is where you would set up the email. Be sure that you create a blind copy a blind copy and have that email sent to an email folder within your company. So here's what I mean. Let me just start at the beginning for those of you who aren't aware of what I'm talking about. Of course, you can't see Eddie's question. What we would do here is we would set up a blind carbon copy. That's what it stands for. Every time your service technician emails something, you will automatically get a copy of it sent to you, sent to whatever email address you want it sent to. Now, what you can do is you can create a mailbox just for this, or have it go to any email address within your company, and you might create an email rule to put it into a special folder. Here's why. The customer might call you and say, I never got the invoice. Eddie came out and fixed my furnace. I never got an invoice at all for it. And what's up? And you can say, oh, I'm sorry about that. Let me go check. You would open up Outlook or whatever you're using. You'd go to that special folder. You'd find the invoice, and that gives you the opportunity to say to them, oh, I got a copy of it. That way they know you didn't forget, right? So you get to tell them, I have a copy of that. Let me forward it to you. And you could forward it to them without bothering the technician. That would also allow you to see their signature, which is part of another question that was asked by Raymond. How do you see their signature? And I'll give it a full answer here in a minute. But one of the ways you'd see a signature is go to that folder and look at the PDF version of the invoice, the email version of the invoice, and you'll see the signature in there. Now, as you might know, when you capture a signature in mobile, it is also capturing the latitude and longitude of the device that was signed. We do that for many reasons, not the least of which is maybe small claims court. If you have to go to small claims court to get your money, at least you can prove that that signature took place on their property, the middle of their warehouse, or some area that you don't control, and it's just that much more evidence that it was a legitimate signature. But that's one way to see that signature, Raymond, is to go in and look at the blind copy email that you want to set up. The other way is to go into Total Office Manager's invoice list. Let's go here. And same with a work order, by the way. Let's open someone up. So here I am looking at, well, I'm looking at an estimate. Probably won't have a signature, but I'll go to menu and go to show signature, and we don't have one. We're not going to have one in here. Let me see if I can find one. I guess it's not important that I find it, but it's the same place. So you would simply go to show signature, and it'll bring up a form and show the customer's signature. So if there was one, there it is. There's the signature right there. So that's how you would do that. But please be sure, whether your question was similar to Raymond's or not, be sure that you go in and you create a mailbox just for that purpose, for the blind copy, or create a folder rule so that you will be able to go look at that email, see the signature, and resend it. Now, one thing I'm doing, by the way, is when I answer a question, I'm able to hit start and stop. And you will be able to see the time on this video where I addressed your question. So Raymond's going to be able to go look and see where his question was addressed. From Deborah, we are not using mobile. There's a great amount of confusion regarding phone numbers for customers. We can't tell what phone numbers belong to what person on the account. Can this be changed? Why not have the ability to label phone numbers ourselves? Problem with using the contact tab is that the info is not sent to the tech. Yeah, so we really built the software for you to use mobile. That may not be the answer that you want to hear, but we really built the software for mobile. So let's talk about that real quick. Let's go back to our customer list. Let's open up a customer, James Leichter. And we don't allow you to label these phone fields down here. Like, you can't rename contact because we're actually using that throughout the software for various things. We don't allow you to rename this because our caller ID system is using it, among other things. What we did though is we added a contacts tab, which would allow you to put in their name, their email, their phone number, their title, and that's user definable. So you can add new cell phone, fax number, and then finally a catch-all, comments. And there's even an alt phone, comments like don't ever call after 5 p.m. or after 5 p.m. call their cell phone number, stuff like that. Now, all of that shows up in mobile. It doesn't show up, I guess, I haven't done it in a while. I guess it doesn't show up when you email a work order, but we really don't want you to email work orders. We really want you to use mobile. Again, I'm sensitive to the fact that you may say to yourself, well, I don't want to buy mobile. I don't want to spend the money, or I don't want my techs using mobile. But we're building this software from this point forward, assuming everybody's on mobile. Remember, we're trying to build software. You might remember that PowerPoint slide. We're trying to build software with features that appeal to the masses of our users. Most of you do heating, most of you do HVAC, plumbing, electrical. That is 82% of our user base. We're adding features that most would benefit from. Based on that, we have to assume you want mobile. We have to assume you want mobile. For those of you who said to us, I don't want mobile, I want a mobile timesheet program. That's all I want. It's just timesheets. That's all I want. Clock in, clock out, that's all I want. We built that too. So now we have a timesheet app, but we're building the software based on the assumption that everybody's going to use mobile. Deposits from Brian, deposits on estimates. Can there be some sort of escrow accounting related to deposits? We require deposits in order to order and pay for serialized installs, etc. So one thing that we're adding to mobile, again, we're programming for mobile. We're assuming everybody's mobile. One thing we're adding to mobile, if it's not out right now, it'll be out real soon, is the ability to take a payment on an estimate. I think that that's due out later this year. I don't think it's out yet, but we're adding the ability to take a down payment on an estimate, and that should help. Now, as far as escrowing the accounting on the deposit, you can get tricky with your accounting. If you go into your chart of account preferences and you turn off smart account filtering, which I don't recommend for the average user. Notice this is my preferences. This allows you to really screw up your books, by the way, because it gives you the ability to select things that most people would never want to select. But that's per user. So if you turn that off for an advanced user, you could select accounts that are unusual, and you could create escrow on those bank deposits and move money around that way. And then when the feature comes out in mobile, giving you the ability to take a down payment on an estimate, that should help. In Tom, of course, you can already receive a payment for work you haven't done. If you go to customers and go to receive payments right here, you can receive a payment for an invoice that doesn't yet exist. And the software will tell you, hey, are you crazy? There's no software, or pardon me, there's no invoice. You want to create a credit, and you create a credit. So that credit becomes a deposit, and then you can apply that credit towards a future invoice. All right, so hopefully that answered your question. If not, please email helpdesk@aptora.com and you can get a better answer, hopefully. Justin, I get my question in the queue too. When creating an estimate with job-specific items, for the sake of conversation, let's say 4 ball valves are needed on the estimate. The information from the items doesn't carry over to the work orders that is given to technicians to complete the job, and is not a custom field that can be added. Is there something I'm missing? Well, so if you have an estimate, let's go back to this list right here. If you have an estimate, I'll hit the button. If you have an estimate here, one thing that you can do is you can create work orders from the estimate. Now, at one time we had a bug, and I think it's been fixed a long time ago, but I do remember one time we had a bug and it wouldn't carry the items over to the work order. So we'll just try it right now. And I'm in the version that you would have. I'm in the public version. So let's try it. So if you create the work order from the estimate, it would know what items are on the estimate and it would bring them over like you see here. You could also create work orders from the purchase order if that was better for you. You could create a work order from the purchase order and it would carry the items over here. Now it doesn't know which items, so it does all of them. You could simply get rid of 2 of the 4 ball valves or whatever that you wanted to, and that's how they find their way on the work order. Otherwise, another option you have is the so-called reserve items feature. Too much to get into at this moment. This is one of your 550 rooms that make the software look hard to use. If you don't see this button, it is a feature that you have to turn on in preferences. But the reserve items feature would allow you to reserve the 4 ball valves for that customer. If you clicked this button, a form would open up showing you the 4 ball valves, regardless of how you got to the work order. Create it from scratch. The reserve items feature would show you those 4 ball valves, and you could add them to the work order from the reserve items feature. So that's how that would work. Oh man, we got a lot from Brian. Brian, I'm going to skip you because you've asked tons of questions, and I want to be sure I'm getting to other people. Okay, so I'm sorry about that. And some of them are quite involved. So I think really I'd copy and paste a lot of these I don't answer from you into an email. I'm just sorry. There's just so many of them, and there's so much to read. Pretty tough to get through all those. William. See, William's got one sentence here. I have Android tablets and it does not allow me in Maps to find my location. When the app is disabled, my Google Maps can locate my location. I don't know what that problem is. I have Android also. Got my phone here. Also got a tablet, Android tablet. I don't have that problem at all. So I'm not sure I can help you on that. I guess my answer, William, is it should work fine. I would ask tech support to look into that, but I use mine constantly. I use my mapping feature constantly. I use the tracking feature. Currently, on an Android device, I have no trouble at all with our app, and I'm in our app every day. I'm in the app all the time. So I'm sorry I can't help you with that. Justin, it seems after an update to Aptora, the new schedule board resets to the default column order. Can these settings be retained in the future so we don't have to resort to fit what we don't see or need to see? I don't know what that is either, but I will say if you have 2 schedule boards opened at the same time, like I have right here, if you have 2 boards opened at the same time and you minimize one of them and you reset anything on the second one, the other one will assume all of those settings when it refreshes. And it refreshes automatically every 2 minutes, or it refreshes whenever you refresh the button. So in other words, you come in here and change your profile. You edit any of your preferences. You add or subtract columns. You do anything. The next board will adopt all of that work the next time that refresh button is hit or when the board refreshes itself, okay? And the reason why it does that is all of your settings are stored in the same place for all the boards. So in other words, you can only have one set of settings and preferences for all the boards you open. We honestly shouldn't even allow you to open 2 boards. We really should just prevent you from opening a second board, but that'll happen. Oh, also, by the way, if anyone logs in as you, it'll reset your board. If you're logging in as admin and someone else logs in as admin, it doesn't realize you're 2 different people because you're both admin. It'll reset the board. So you can't have more than one admin. You can't log in with somebody else's credentials or have 2 people with your credentials. And you can't have 2 or more boards open because, again, when it refreshes, it goes to look at all those settings and it'll change everything to meet those settings. And if that doesn't answer it, then maybe you've discovered a bug of some kind and you might let us know about it. be sure you're in the latest version of Total Office Manager and the schedule board. So the latest version of schedule board is 3.4.0.3. So just be sure you're on the latest version. And if what I said doesn't apply, you might have discovered a bug that I'm not aware of. All right. Brian, again, I'm sorry. I really appreciate all of your, Brian's questions. I just can't get to all of them because there's a lot to read here too. One thing he did ask is, will you be able to send pics or attachments with the chat? No, not in version 1, but later on, we're going to add that. So our idea is to get the chat out, get people using it, start getting feedback, and we'll start programming based on that feedback. We really didn't want to go too far with the feature set because we wanted to find out what people were really interested in. And without a doubt, pictures and attachments, I think, are going to be important. But it isn't easy because where do we store all that? We have to decide where you would store your attachments, your pictures. Where would they go? So there's a little bit of work to that, and that's why we decided that would be phase 2, Brian. But we'll definitely be adding pictures and attachments. Probably that's 2 different things. Probably we'll do pictures first, attachments next. Somebody asked about emojis. We have emojis in there, and it's important that they have emojis. And yes, we'll have emojis too. Justin, let's see here. Still interested in a cash drawer scanner that works with the PO system. We asked about this a year ago and got no real feedback. So we do have the ability to have a scanner that plugs into the USB. You can, or it can be Bluetooth, or it can be dongle, the little transmitter. So that's already there, that works. We have that feature in the desktop, we have that feature in mobile. And then as far as a cash drawer is concerned, if you buy a cash drawer that has a USB connector, then it will open automatically when you go into POS mode in Total Ops Manager. What we haven't built in Total Ops Manager, because not enough people care, is we haven't built a new chip scanner for the POS system. What we've decided to do is, rather than update Total Office Manager's POS system, which is a feature you have to pay for and turn on, rather than make it better, we are going to move the POS system to the mobile, and you'll have, for example, mobile on a stand like this, and you can have a scanner. I don't have mine. Don't have my scanner. You can have a scanner, a chip reader, and that's going to be the new POS. So we are going to get to that. But we do have the POS system that can open a cash drawer, and we do have the barcode scanner already. So you might ask your account manager about that. As far as the cash drawer is concerned, we stopped selling them just because it was kind of a hassle. You just have to get one that's USB activated, because we send a signal through the USB wire to say, hey, open the cash drawer. William, seems like since we have switched to cloud-based, the software was always freezing and forcing us to reconnect. So I've had that problem here and there too, but not a lot, not always. Probably, 3 times a day, the software will disconnect. I don't really have it freeze as much as I just have it disconnect. It disconnects itself after 3 hours of inactivity. Keep that in mind. But usually that's not my case. I'm usually in it. It just disconnects for some reason, and I don't really know why. I will ask around and say, did anyone get disconnected? And they'll say, no, I didn't get disconnected. For example, here I am. I'm still in the hosted. So you can see up here it says hosted. I'm in hosted, and it's still working because 3 hours haven't gone by. It's definitely not frozen. It's working fine. But occasionally it will just disconnect, and I'll get one of those message boxes that says disconnected. If you will write down an accurate time that you got disconnected, just keep a log. Just get a piece of paper and keep a log. You might discover it's happening at a certain time of day. And that could be us, so let us know. And it could be your system. It could be something in your system that's disconnecting you. But really what's happening is the internet connection specific to this particular instance of the software got interrupted. And unlike a browser that can get interrupted, this thing, if it gets interrupted, it'll disconnect you. Now, one question to ask yourself is, when you get disconnected, if you go reconnect, is the program still running? So in other words, you're using the software, you go do something, you look over and there's that message box, disconnected. That's what I get occasionally, about 3 times a day, sometimes none. But that's the message box I get. So when you reconnect, is the program where you left it? Is it still running? Is the form still open that you were working on? If the answer to that is yes, then it was your internet connection that got disconnected, not our server. Because the very fact that you went back in there and saw the form you were working on means that our server's still running, saying, hey, William, here's your software. Your connection to that box, that server, got disconnected. Okay? I don't know if that helps, but probably, again, write down your disconnects and you might see a pattern, and that pattern will help us because we have found virus software doing it. We found their internet connection reset itself at a certain time. Things like that happen, and it helps us troubleshoot. Jennifer, we would request that pay stubs be emailed to our employees. Would save a lot of administrative costs. We have over 100 employees, well over 100 employees. That is a good one, Jennifer, and we're working on that. So we picture the mobile program. Again, we're programming for mobile. We picture the mobile programming. I need to drink some more caffeine. I keep messing up my words. Hang on a minute. Okay, 300 milligrams of caffeine in that thing. It ought to help. All right, I'll start over. What we picture is adding a feature to mobile, Aptora Mobile 2. That's our main app, that allows the employee to go in and grab their pay stub, and then they can email it to themselves. We probably won't have an emailer in Tom. We might do that later. But what would be easier for us, I think, in phase 1 is to add the pay stubs to mobile, and then we could also do it to Geo Time Tracker after that. But we would put them in mobile, and then that way you could tell your employees, hey, your pay stub is in mobile already. Go get it. Now, what about people that don't use mobile? Clearly, we need to add that feature, but there's security issues that we have to work out. So the fastest thing for us to do is add that capability to Aptora Mobile, and then add that capability to the desktop so that when checks are created, it automatically emails the stuff. So that is in the works. I should add that to my 2020 slide, by the way, because that is in the works, Jennifer. So let me click your little start and stop button, and that way you'll see where the answer was if you wanted to go back to it. Gina, user security settings would like to allow some employees to add new customers, or pardon me, new sub-customers, but not allow them to enter or modify the main customer account. Is there a way to do this? No, there isn't. That's a good feature request. That's just, as huge as this software is, and as much as it can do, there's already 1.6 million lines of code in this one right here. What you're seeing on your screen, 1.6 million lines of code. We probably could add another 500 lines of code and take care of that. That's probably a good suggestion, I think, is keep people from getting to the parent. Now, one thing you said, though, is would like to allow some employees to add new subs, but not allow them to enter or modify the main customer's account. So that's actually even more work. No way to do that currently, but that's a good suggestion. By the way, be sure to tell everybody, hey, everything you do is in this audit trail. Everything you do is in the audit trail. Never allow people to share passwords. Never. But in the audit trail is everything all of you do. I know the name of the user, the computer, the date, the time, the form they touched, the action they took, etc. It's all in the audit trail. Stay out of that form. I know that's not a perfect answer, but it is helpful to remind everybody that there is an audit trail watching everything they do. Brian, I'm going to answer Brian's because, Byron. Sorry, I'll answer Byron's. I thought it was Brian again. Where can a report for sales leads by referring technician be run? So one place to get that is go to the sales opportunity manager list, and one of your filters should be, let's see if it is. If it isn't, I'll add it. Oh, employee lead. So here you could type in the name of the employee, or you could go into your filters, create a user filter or global filter. So this would show you the name of the employee who's associated with that lead. Now, let me explain this real quick in case you're not aware of it. Some of you, not Byron, I know he's aware of it. He's super knowledgeable. He could work in tech support easily. So I know he knows this, but for the rest of you, you may not be aware of it. In mobile, you have the ability to give your employees the ability to add a lead, a sales lead. They would go into My Leads and they would enter a lead here and they can track their leads. This is so that they can track the progress of sales opportunities that they've created. And maybe if you bonus or spiff them, they would be especially interested in going into this list. So the question, as I think I understand it, is, well, how can I figure out who entered what lead? What you can do is go to your sales opportunity list and you can filter by that employee, and then you can export that to Excel, or you could run a quick report here. Or what you could do is go to reports and see if there is a filter. I don't think there is, but what you could do is go into reports and look at the various sales lead related reports and see if there's a filter by the referring employee. And I don't think there is one. Marketing product, no. If it was really important, we could add it to this. But that would be my answer, is go to that form, and that's where you can see them. So I hope that answers that question. At least that's a workaround. You could go here to get the information. And if not, then you probably could create, you know what, I forgot about this, custom data view. You could go into the custom data views. You could find a custom data view that has the sales lead information on it. And hopefully you'll have the referring tech on there too. We can add that if it's not there. And we can get you that information that way. So don't forget, all of you, don't forget about the custom data viewer. It's a great place to get information out of the software. All right, I better move on. Happy birthday. Thank you. That's not a question. It is my birthday. So I was asked, are you going to do the webinar on your birthday? And I said, sure, this is my favorite thing to do. Whether you have criticism for us or compliments, I love being on here, because if you're right, you're right. If you're not right, if you're wrong, I hate to use that word, you're wrong. I hate to say that. But like if there's an explanation, I love giving it. But sometimes people are right, and I like that too. So the more I spend time with you guys, the better, happier I am. Crystal, how do we invoice for items that have been reassigned ownership? Still the same as before, or is there another step? It's the same as before. So you don't invoice people. It's a great question. Go back to that feature. And there's a help topic on this, by the way, a pretty good help topic. So if you use the inventory transfer feature and you transfer ownership, you don't have to invoice for that. Now you might be saying, hold on, I got to invoice to get paid. You would invoice them to get paid. You would invoice them to create income. And that's a long explanation that I don't have time to get into right now. But you'd still create an invoice to invoice them and get paid and create income. But your cost of goods sold isn't necessary because it was created during the inventory transfer process. Okay, so hopefully that answers that. Susan, does the inventory transfer form add cost to the job costing reports? Do you then also have to do an invoice to put costs to jobs? It does affect your job costing for sure. So you don't have to worry about creating an invoice to create job costing. So when you go in and do the inventory transfer, one thing you're doing is you're picking the customer or the job, and that will affect your job costing automatically. Same Susan, can we get the new schedule board to reopen to the last profile selected rather than the default? Yeah, why not? I think that's a good idea. Open to, I'll just make a note of that, open to profile. And I think that's a good idea. And I'm sure one of my coworkers is watching and maybe they can write it down too to remind me. But I wrote that down. That's a good suggestion. There's no reason why we can't remember what profile you were in and open that profile. So good suggestion, Susan. Thank you. Here's a long one. I'm going to try to come back to that. Jeannie, our state requires that we have full employer address and EIN number on the top of pay stubs. Currently, I'm exporting pay stubs to Adobe and then adding that info to the pay stub. Then I email it out. Can additional information be added to Tom? Can Tom email pay stubs directly? So we talked about that. We know we need to add that emailing capability. And as far as the employer address and EIN number is concerned, I think you're right. I don't think we allow you to do that. Let's go to preview stub real quick, and we have no print options. Now the full employer, not employee, full employer address is what you need. So no, we don't have that apparently. Let's see, let's go to company info. I have it there. No, apparently that's not in pay stubs. So yeah, we can add that. And then you need your EIN number on the top too, so we can add that. So I'd like one of my coworkers to make a note of that, please, that we should add to the pay stubs the ability to include the full employer address and the EIN number on the top of the pay stub. And then, as I mentioned, you can wait on the emailing the pay stubs, and we'll get that done. So we'll add a feature. Our first feature, though, just to be clear, our first feature is probably going to be to put it in mobile, because it's just a lot easier for us to do that. And then I realized that's not perfect, because some of you have employees that don't use mobile, office worker, for example. Then phase 2 would be, well, we'll add the email capability. If it turns out emailing is faster and easier than I think, then we would just run right to it. We would just add that ability to do that. So let me look at something real quick here. Print preview. Yeah. Okay. And I'm thinking. All right. Let's see. Craig, what is the best way for technicians to see customer notes while using mobile? This is where we log special instructions for facility access or special instructions prior to or upon arrival to a job site. If we print a hard copy of a work order, our template displays this info. What changes should we make to keep this info visible transitioning to mobile too? So let's look at a work order real quick. What we had envisioned was using the Notes tab, Private Notes. Now, you have a brief description that's 100 characters, and usually that says no cooling upstairs. Downstairs is fine. That's the description. And then detailed description could be, they have 3 units. You're working on the 3rd floor unit. We've been there numerous times. He's unhappy because he thinks the bottom unit is related to the top unit, which is not something that we created a callback on, that kind of thing. And then under notes, you would see the technician's notes. You could put something in there if you wanted to, but that's not what we had in mind. You see the technician notes, but the private notes is where you can put things that you would not want the customer to see. All of these things are visible in mobile. So you'll see all of them. But private notes is probably where I would put the information that you're asking about. Another option you have that many people aren't aware of is, as of sometime this year, earlier in the year, So it's been probably 9, 10 months. We added, um, we added down here work order contact log. So work orders have their own contact logs now. If you go to the customer's contact log, you have an option to include work order contact logs. So you can still see them in the customer if you want to. But all work orders now have their own contact log. So if it was helpful, you could open up the contact log for that work order. See it right there? You could have topics, user-defined topics that meet your needs. They're all time-stamped automatically. You can put in those notes that you described, and that is also available in mobile. So that's in mobile as well. Hopefully that answers your question. Kathy, please note for future, this is way too long. For me, the first 25 minutes was a waste of time. Get to the meat of the subject, please. So, well, that's Kathy's opinion. Other people might say, I am so glad the owner of this company decided to spend 1 hour and 48 minutes of his time with us. 25 minutes would have been a waste of my time. So, Kathy, that's your opinion. Maybe you shouldn't come to the first 25 minutes. Just skip that because it was a waste of your time. I understand that, but I can't please everybody. So hopefully the 25 minutes wasn't a waste of time for everybody else. And I would think that some of this info would be worth 2 hours. You know, you go to a college course and you sit through a boring 2-hour lecture, and then all of a sudden the person says one thing that made it all worthwhile. And you say, wow, boy, I was bored for an hour and a half, but I'm glad I just heard that. And that's the challenge with education. I'm the teacher, right? I understand that I'm going to say a bunch of things that are boring, but I never know what nugget is just right for somebody. So I can't really please Kathy. I would also say, and I'm not picking on her, I'm not trying to be rude. She might wait for the recording, and then that way she can just fast forward all the boring stuff that I have to say and get right to the meat of it. But what's the meat of it? I don't even know. Stephanie, suggestions for future ads. Bank feeds where we can link our bank and credit card accounts. So each morning I can come in, log into the system, click bank feeds, and enter our bank password. All transactions that are posted from the previous night pull in. So we've had that asked of us before, and it's something that we might end up doing. It's a lot of work, and we can get a lot of other stuff done in that same time frame. But I have to say that many of us old school accounting people, and I'm a partner, I'm the majority partner in an accounting firm, so I'm really into accounting. A lot of us old school accounting people don't like that feature in QuickBooks. We find it to be very unsafe. What we prefer people to do is every day or 2 or 3, and we do this at Aptora, you open up your bank, your credit card, and you have it on a screen, and then you can compare it to the purchase orders that are in your system. Everything has to have a purchase order. And we compare the purchase order with the screen, and if the screen's got a problem, and it does all the time. So what is the screen? It's the bank, it's the credit card. We find problems all the time. Our PO is correct. Sometimes it's not. But the PO is correct, the screen's got the problem. So we correct that, and then we have a PO that's accurate. And we use the PO to enter the credit card charge or the bill or the item receipt. And that's a check and balance that old school accounting people love. But honestly, a lot of people, including younger people, don't like that. They want to be able to go to the website and click import. The problem is when you click import, you could import fraudulent transactions. And you could get, I'm not saying Stephanie would do this, but a user could get lazy and just accept the fraudulent transactions. The transactions that are incorrect could easily be imported into the system. There's no check and balance, or the check and balance could easily be skipped. So we're not really keen on doing that right away. But I will say that's something we would like to do. The reason why QuickBooks does it is because QuickBooks is very much into being a starter tool set. security is not a big issue, as you well know with QuickBooks. It's the embezzler's dream come true software program. When you read about embezzlement at a small company, it's almost always QuickBooks because it makes it really easy for stuff like that to happen. So anyway, to sum it up, I do believe that it's something that we would like to address if I can just get over my security concerns. From Tony, Mobile Audit Trail. Just had an employee charge a customer $250 for a job. The customer paid with cash. My technician then emailed the customer the invoice for $250. Then he changed the invoice to $150 and pocketed the $100. He only got caught because he sent the email in mobile and the customer could not read it. So we asked the office to send in the invoice again. Customer stated he paid $250, but the invoice said $150. We used the mobile audit trail, but it would have been nice to see the actual deleted or changed on the invoice after the fact. And you can see I'm writing audit trail. I know where he's going with this. It'd be nice to see, he goes on to say, it'd be nice to see the original amount and the changed amount. And I agree. So why don't I get that done and changed? I think that's great. I think that's really good. In fact, Tony, I think somebody already mentioned this to some of us at work, and we decided, yeah, we're going to make that change. But I wrote it down, and we will get that done. So we'll add to the audit trail in the notes, just so everybody knows what I'm doing here. We will go to company, audit trail, and details. So in here is our catch-all area. We can put in here what it was before and what it was after. And by the way, if you guys weren't aware of it, pay attention to the details area, because we do show things like post-dated, backdated, changed the unit of measure, changed the timesheet, Bob changed Ed's timesheet, stuff like that. So there's a lot of notes in here. Whenever we think something was weird, we put notes in here. So that, Tony, I think that constitutes as weird, and we'll get it in there. Thank you. Brian, I'm going to do Brian because this one's pretty short, and I feel bad for Brian because I've been ignoring him. A fast way to get customer history. I'd like to see the customer history window pop up when you click a customer on the customer list. You only